بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This is Dr. Tariq Rasheed in our program Secrets of Fasting. Now, once Ramadan is approaching, each one of us should plan for this important holy month. Now, we will discuss in this episode some of the plans that we may start looking and doing before Ramadan come. So, what is planning? Planning is defined as setting goals and objectives that you intend to do during Ramadan. And usually we have to start planning before Ramadan coming. And they always say, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So, how can we start planning for Ramadan? So first of all, usually we use the agenda, and I recommend that you write down your objectives in this holy month. For example, and you have several types of objectives. For example, you can define, spiritual objectives. Spiritual objectives, for example, I will finish reading Al-Quran for 2 times in this month. In such a case, which means that every 2 weeks, you have to finish reading Al-Quran. Now, if you don't have the time, then this will affect the goal and the objective. So what we first recommend is to have a schedule, and in this schedule, you calculate the number of hours that you can allow as free time in Ramadan. For example, you set the 7 days of the week. So if you are an employee or you are a student or whatever, you calculate. Assume we are discussing the case of an employee who is going to work from 8 to 3 o'clock. So from Sunday, for example, till Thursday, he is at work from 8 to 3. But to start work at 8, you start at 7, for example. So from 7 up to 4, this is scheduled as employment. And what time you sleep? For example, you sleep at 11 or 12, because in Ramadan we have Taraweeh. So sometimes we go for at 12 o'clock, we may go to sleep. So from 12, for example, till 5 o'clock next morning, you are sleeping. In such a case, we have from 12 to 5, which is around 5 hours, is available per day. So 5 hours per day times 7 days in the week. So we have 35 hours per week. And Friday and Saturday in most countries now, Muslim countries, are Friday, and Saturday is a holiday. So you count again, for example, 8 hours and 8 hours, or 16 hours, because we don't sleep more than 8 hours even in holidays. So 16 hours, 16, we have 32 plus 35. So let's say we have a budget of 67 or 65 hours. Then by logic, you start planning this holy month. So you have to have an agenda, and I recommend that you bring an agenda that you can use for planning for Holy Ramadan, and most libraries and bookshops now have this type of agenda for Ramadan. So you have now 65 hours per week. You have 4 weeks in Ramadan. How to define your objectives? So you have to go to what are my spiritual objectives. For example, I will do at-Taraweeh each night of Ramadan, which is highly recommended to go with Muslims and pray for God in Taraweeh. So if Taraweeh takes, for example, 2 hours, and you go for 7 days, so 14 hours is for at-Taraweeh. Then you calculate, for example, I need, for example, to go for masjid for salawat and for praying. So you calculate number of hours. You add this, of course, to the number of hours you are working. Then from the other spiritual goals, for example, I want to finish reading Quran, as we mentioned, twice in this month. So every 2 weeks, you have to schedule. For example, Friday, you can go for finishing, for example, 4 parts or 5 parts of Al-Quran. Okay? Al-I'tikaf, if you want Al-I'tikaf and you have time, we recommend Al-I'tikaf the last 10 days. And now most people, if they have time, they do Al-I'tikaf the last 10 days of Ramadan. So again, you schedule this on this spiritual actions or objectives. Also, there should be objectives on the family level. So in family level, what will you do with your family? For example, I will allow some hours during the week to teach my sons, my wife, to discuss with my relatives about Ramadan, the importance of Ramadan, how can we help others. So this is time for what we call the time with family. Also, if you can discuss what type of things that I want to do, for example, sadaqat, and you start looking who are the needy people, you can start visiting, for example, societies that help people to fight against hunger. You may engage yourself in voluntary work. So by this, you set several types of hours for as-sadaqat. Also, it's very important to have self-development goals in Ramadan. For example, I want to read more about Ramadan. I want to read Sunnah, how our Prophet Muhammad was doing during Ramadan. This is actually educating yourself. It's a time in Ramadan actually, especially the hours before iftar. Usually, most countries, the hours before iftar is free for most people. At least 1 or 2 hours before iftar, we have time, so you can have a self-development goal and you plan this for Ramadan. Also, you have to have a goal for helping the society. So by helping the society, you start reading about your society. What are the needs of my society? If, for example, you are a teacher, you can allow some hours of your time to present some advice to students, to some knowledge and share knowledge. And by this, you are actually presenting sadaqah. It's not necessarily sadaqah is money. The sadaqah is giving out of your time, for example, for helping others. And some people who does not have money, they go, for example, lots of issues that they can help others. So allow some time to give from your knowledge, from your skills to people that is in need of this. So spiritual goals with God, with your family, with your society, and with yourself. But sometimes they found that plans do not work as we schedule. So what we recommend is you start counting, for example, the first week. Does it work with you that what you scheduled has been achieved? If not, reschedule for the next week. And usually, by rescheduling for the next week, usually we plan in a better manner than the first week. And when we face some problems, of course, you have to have some sort of what we call flexibility in the schedule. So once you have 1 week, so if this is not done here, you can transfer and do it here, and in reverse, you can do other issues. And usually, in order to understand the planning and to celebrate Ramadan before coming and start planning for this, actually, you have to understand the following issues. All tasks in our lives are described or classified into 4 quadrants. The quadrants are based on urgent and important. There are tasks that are urgent and important, which you must do. For example, you must go for al-iftar once sunset is announced on Salat al-Maghrib. So you must do this, and it's important to do it. And if you remember, one of the sunan is to accelerate al-iftar. So some tasks are, you must do it, it's important and urgent, like taking this. And usually this quadrant of tasks is called the emergency quadrant, that must do it on time of achievement. But there are some tasks that important but not urgent. Not necessarily to do it now or in a specific time, but it's very important. For example, if you can think of going to Umrah, it's highly recommended to go for Umrah. So if you can plan this in advance, because for example you need some sort of vacation or leave from your organization, so you have to think. Proper planning before Ramadan is an idea that we can apply. So important things actually, for example, developing relations. And usually Silat al-Rahim is very important. So since last days, for example, I did not see my husband, I did not see my uncle, I will go to visit my uncle. Your friends in the university, your colleagues at work, so you schedule all of these, and these are called important but not urgent. The 2 problems actually that will waste time is what we call urgent but not important. Urgent but not important, they found now technology is wasting time of most people, especially youth in the age range of 14 to 25. Most of the people now in this age range is on technology, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, all of these considered social media, but actually they are wasting the time of the youth, and sometimes they are directing them towards issues that are prohibited to do. For example, lots of people go to drug because of the technology and using these types of videos and films that encourage youth to go for this. And usually people who go for drugs have free time, and lots of free time, especially youth and the students at universities and schools. Because of this, we need families, we need fathers and mothers to understand, to engage with their sons and daughters, that this will help actually achieving the surplus of Ramadan. So we have to schedule this. So don't go for urgent but not important like technology wasting time. And they found that most people are managed by technology. They are not managing technology. And in time management, it's clear that you are the manager. If you allow others, devices, interruptions to manage you, you will lose. The problem is actually in type 4 tasks. Not urgent, not important. Wasting lots of time. Sleeping long times all day and night and just going for al-iftar, then getting back. This is actually wasting time, and this, in this case, you will start suffering from negative feelings, depression, all issues like this. So again, get benefits from the two quadrants. What is the important urgent? Schedule it in its time. What is important but not urgent? Usually relations development. So the clever Muslim will always plan for Ramadan before Ramadan approaches or come to us. So start planning. They found also that there are some sort of what we call time wasters. Time wasters, for example, include two types: time wasters by self and time wasters by others. For example, long visits. And sometimes in Ramadan, they go for long visits, they watch TV, they are actually wasting their time from being actually going to positive issues that will support your fasting. Reading Al-Quran is very important. Al-i'tikaf is very important. Qiyam al-layl is very important. All of these. So one of the things that will waste time is overlong visits. Also, one of the things that may affect wasting time is not planning. When Ramadan is approaching, for example, Ramadan is approaching within 4 months. What should I do? I start thinking from today. And I take the agenda which I mentioned. You come with this agenda, which shows the 4 weeks, and you start scheduling week by week. And each week is a lesson, so you can plan for the other week, and so on. So avoid wasting time. And they found in life that in most people live for 60 to 70 years. Imagine they found that 8 years of the 60 years is wasted in technology with no positive impact, just wasting time. How many years you have? 8 years to waste in technology. And of course, we have around 8 years sleeping. So what is left? This is people who plan. They know that they have to go for good planning, proper planning before Ramadan come. Also, one of the most important issues is to be with people who are very positive, who are people actually taqwa, al-muttaqeen, with al-mu'mineen, with Muslims. So choose your friends, choose a team of people to be with them. And so you start, for example, this week we will discuss Surah Al-Baqarah, for example. This is a plan to discuss Surah Al-Baqarah. And if you can engage people of different interests, this is highly recommended in Ramadan. First, we engage people, we listen to others, and it's preferable to have some sort of special people. For example, in Al-Quran, you go for example, wa'id or sheikh to help you to understand the concepts of Al-Quran. And life is actually in team. And always Islam support the concept of team. كالجسد الواحد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الأعضاء بالسهر والحمى. As our Prophet Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام said, that the Muslim towards the Muslim is like the one body. If someone suffer in the body, the other part of the body will also suffer. So the idea is go as a team, and the concept of a team is summarized in a good wording in English. So team, T-E-A-M, together everyone achieves more. So let's benefit from Ramadan and be with our friends emotionally, spiritually, physically, and all of these activities. And one of the practices that is also preferable to do in Ramadan is to take a certain project that you want to achieve in Ramadan. It's very important to have some sort of projects. This will help you understand more about Ramadan and the philosophy of Ramadan, teaching you the patience, but also you can benefit. For example, I will take a project to support, for example, the students in so and so. I'll take a project, for example, to do voluntary work during these days. So the concept of project. But in order to make a project, you have to plan. So I recommend also plan some sort of projects. But for planning a project, you need to set resources. What resources do you need? Do you need support from some people? Define them. Define all type of people you want to support you in this project. Do you need some sort of machines, devices? For example, I need, stationery. I need so and so to support people and to do this project. Define the budget, because it's very important to define the finance. And usually you'll find several organizations in Ramadan that support projects in Ramadan. For example, one of the projects that is always in many countries is what we call al-iftar al-jama'i, where we gather people together. So the idea of this episode is start planning for Ramadan from now, bring the schedule, put your objectives, define some projects, define the resources. By this, you will get from Ramadan all the benefits. By planning, you master everything. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is our program, Secrets of Fasting, and this is Dr. Tariq Rasheed.